So, good afternoon, class, and welcome to our today's lesson, lesson 3. And before we start our today's lesson, I want us to remind ourselves on what we said last time, that is yesterday. If you remember very well, yesterday we were finalizing the topic on water, whereby we discussed the different ways of conserving water. If you can remember what we said, we mentioned several ways through which water can be conserved. We mentioned the following. One, we talked of reusing, whereby we said used water can be used again for another purpose. Used water can be used again for another purpose. For example, using soapy water for mopping the floor or washing cars and all of that. Something else we mentioned is mulching. Mulching, which we said this one is the act of spreading dry grass or leaves around where the plants are growing so as to conserve soil moisture. 3, we mentioned shading as another way of conserving water, which we said that it involves erecting a shade on where the plants are growing. For example, in nursery bed. Now these two, we say that they conserve water by reducing the rate of water loss through evaporation. Number 4, we talked of harvesting. We talked of harvesting water, and we say this one is the act of collecting water either from roofs or from the ground. The one from the roofs, when it rains, it can be collected and get stored in tanks for future use. We can also collect water running on the ground. That is the surface runoff. It can be collected and get stored in dams. That is the other dams for use for things like irrigation. You can use it for watering animals and all of that. Number 5, we talked of constructing dams. Constructing dams. And we said that dams, they are walls that are constructed across the river to hold back water so that that water can be used for another use or another purpose. We talked of use of water, using water sparingly. Using water sparingly. That is using water in a way that we don't waste it. Using water in a way that we don't waste. That is using water sparingly. And a good example of this one, we mentioned of drip irrigation. It's a good way, or it's a good example how water is used sparingly. And others, like putting enough water in a basin for bathing instead of using showers, among others. Then lastly, we talked of recycling. We talked of recycling as a way which water is used, is conserved, recycling. And we said this one involves treating water so that it can be usable again. For example, the sewage can be treated to make it usable again. Now, that is for yesterday. Today, I want us to start a new topic, and that is soil. I want us to start the topic on soil. That is for today, soil. Now, what is soil? You may ask yourself that. What is soil? I know, many of you know what soil is, and if you can remember what you are taught in class 6 when you are learning about soil erosion, I hope you mentioned what soil is. That is the rock particles that are found on the earth's surface. Soil, again, is one of the major components of the environment. As we saw in our topic on environment, it is a major component. It is very important. We cannot do without soil. It is very, very important. So as we proceed, we'll also look at ways how soil can be conserved. But for this class, because last year in our class 6, we discussed about soil erosion, the different forms of soil erosion, how can we control soil erosion, and many, many other things. I don't want to go back to that. I want us to go straight to what you're supposed to learn today, and that is soil fertility. That is what you're supposed to mention in this class, soil fertility. We need to define what soil fertility is. Soil fertility, a fertile soil. Now, a fertile soil is that kind of soil which is able to sustain, to produce high yields for a long period of time. That is a fertile soil. That kind of soil which is able to sustain high crop yields for a long period of time. Fertile soil. Now, from that definition, we can also get the definition of soil fertility. We can get the definition of soil fertility. And what is this? Soil fertility, this one is the ability of soil, the ability of soil to sustain high crop yields for a long period of time. So if soil is able to sustain, is able to produce high crop yields for a long period of time, then we say that soil is fertile, and then after that one, we say that that is soil fertility. Now, we know that soil cannot remain fertile forever, no, it cannot. At one point, it will lose its fertility. At one point, it will lose its fertility. Now, I want us to mention how soil can lose its fertility. How soil loses its fertility. How can soil lose its fertility? Because you have said that soil cannot remain fertile forever. At one point, it will lose its fertility. But how? We have, or I have mentioned 4 points here on how soil can lose its fertility. One, we have absorption by plants. As the plants are absorbing the nutrients from the soil, these nutrients are getting exhausted. They are getting used up. So as they continue, as the plants continue absorbing the nutrients, with time, these nutrients will get depleted. These nutrients will get finished. And at that time, the soil will have lost its fertility. So point number one, absorption by plants. You need to know that. Number two, soil erosion. Class 6, you mentioned, you defined what soil erosion is. And you said that soil erosion is that process by which the top fertile soil is carried away by the agents of soil erosion like water, wind, animals, and others. So the carrying away of top fertile soil will lead to or will make the soil lose its fertility. Soil erosion. Number 3, soil pollution. Soil as a component of the environment can also get polluted. Polluted soil is not fertile. Polluted soil cannot sustain high crop yields for a long period of time. So, once soil is polluted, it will end up losing its fertility. Then the last one, leaching. Leaching. I'm very sure this one might be a new term to you.